This is the true story of 5 men from Hana, Maui, who vanished mysteriously into the vast emptiness of the Pacific Ocean. It's a remarkable story, a mystery of the sea. In loving memory of the crew of the Sarah Joe, lost at sea February 11, 1979, off Hana, Maui, Peter Hatchett, Ralph Malayakini, Benjamin Kalama, Scott Mormon, Patrick Woosner. Hana remembers her sons.
O ku'umanu kai I kamuana nui Nini po aula I ko leone O ka malama O moku hano O nene maila.
Sunday morning, February 11, 1979, Hana Bay was flat as a lake with a mild southerly wind. These conditions were rare for East Maui, where blistering trade winds kicked up whitecaps almost every day. Most of the 5 young friends had planned to do some work that day.
The day started out really nice. I was living in Lower Nihiku at the time, and it had been raining for months, which is normal back then. It would rain for 3 months straight.
It was nasty weather for about 2 or 3 weeks before, and everybody was going nuts because it was so cold and windy and stuff. And then that morning, it was beautiful. The sun came out and it was so great.
It was unplanned. It was he was supposed to go to Waikoloa with the 5 boys on the boat, and they were supposed to go out finish our house in Waikoloa.
They was working on his house, and then he told me, hey, the water nice was flat like one lake. So they wanted to go, just go cruise around.
Since it was a beautiful morning, they decided to go fishing. And it was such a beautiful day. The sky was blue, no clouds in the sky. The ocean was like a lake. It was such a beautiful, perfect day.
They just thought they needed poo-poo to enjoy the day, so they would jump on a boat, go out, get some aku and come home and party.
Ralph came to the house and he said, hey, Benny, let's go fishing. So Benny said, I have a job with Peter today. Peter, my husband was a glaze tile setter. Peter was a plumber. So he said, I have a job with Peter today. So, oh, that's okay then. I'll go find 2 other guys. In the meantime, Peter had come down to our house and told Benny, oh, what time are we going to work? Yeah, and Benny said, Ralph came by and he said we wanted to go fishing with him. So Peter said, forget that job. We'll go fishing today. So that's how they went. Now, when they came down to Hana Bay, Ralph had already found Pato and Scott. So there's 5 of them, which is a lot for the 17-foot Boston whaler. So Ralph said, we all go. And that's how they went. They went a little ways out and then they came back. They forgot their cooler of beer.
We were on at Hana Bay drinking the night before. Ralph, Robert, Benny Kalama, Pato, Scotto, and my good friend Hiti Lono. I'm with a bunch of other guys, and Ralph had looked at me and says, let's go fishing tomorrow. I says, I couldn't, because Hiti was going to hang drywall in my kitchen, and the Board of Health was going to come on Monday to inspect it or in the next couple of days. So you know what? You guys go catch a poo-poo, and I go buy the beer, and I'll meet you guys down here at about 4:30.
There was no commercial fishing fleet in Hana. A few fishermen occasionally sold part of their catch to the Hasegawa General Store or to the Hana Ranch Store. But most of the fish were eaten at home or given away to friends. Nobody wanted to try to make a living as a full-time fisherman. There were plenty of fish, but it was considered too dangerous in the rough waters around that part of the island. One of the Hana fishing boats was a 17-foot Boston whaler named the Sarah Joe. It was owned by Robert Maleakini, twin brother of Ralph.
No, I bought them from the other side. I don't know one of them shop outside there. 17-feet Boston whaler. I had one 85 horse Johnson engine on them, the main engine, and a 15 horse kicker.
The boat was named after Malakini's mother, Sarah, and their father, Joe. It was painted white outside, blue inside. The manufacturer advertised this type of vessel as unsinkable and ran TV commercials showing how pieces remained afloat after the boat had been sawed into chunks.
And I remember watching them go around the pier, and they went around the pier, and I ran to the other side, and I saw them going out past the pier. And I remember all of that so clearly.
The Aleanui Ha'a Channel between Maui and the Big Island of Hawaii was considered the roughest waters in Hawaii. It swirled adjacent to Mauna Loa, the largest mountain in the world if measured from its base of the seafloor. The channel was 17,000 feet deep and swept by strong surface currents moving to the southwest. Weather in this channel was always dicey. Gusty wind and choppy waters were the rule, and clear skies could turn overcast with frightening speed. When a storm exploded over the channel, the normal 4 to 8 foot swells could grow into waves of enormous height. For small boaters, it was often a matter of trying to outrun a storm in huge seas to return safely to shore in Hana Bay.
We went out there. It was really, really nice. Nice day, nice water, flat. I had a real bad feeling that day about the ocean. We passed on Alau, and then I told my brother, something's funny. The water's turning, something I didn't see before. So I'm an expert in the ocean, so I look out at the horizon. I see big lumps on the horizon. So I told my brother, you know what? I think let's go back. So we went down a little bit. I said, yeah, we go back.
On Saturday, February 10th, 1979, a low-pressure system that had formed near the island intensified as it approached the Aleanui Ha'a Channel. Hana received no television stations, and radio stations issued weather reports mainly for the western part of Maui. The U.S. Weather Service office in Kahului had a phone recording with the latest weather forecast, but few Hana residents ever called it. Boaters were accustomed to going to sea without consulting weather reports first. They played the weather by eye, knowing if they waited for sunny days, it might be weeks between trips. Ralph Malakini borrowed the Sarajevo and its trailer from his brother Robert. After gathering their fishing gear, the men drove to Hasegawa's general store. They bought and installed new spark plugs in the boat's 2 engines, filled the coolers with beer, ice, soft drinks, and were prepared for the alua or ahi they hoped to catch. They even invited Hasegawa to come along, but he declined with a smile and wished them good luck.
I was 12 years old when the Sarajevo went out, and my grandfather, Murray English, was the president of the Hana Fishermen's Club. So there was an ice machine there. It was behind the Hana store. And the boys called up very early in the morning and asked for ice. So my tutu woke me up and my grandmother up, and we drove up to Hana, filled up their coolers with ice, and then we came down here with them and put the coolers in the boat in the Sarajevo and watched them go out.
I seen them off down Hana Bay, and I greeted them off, watched them drive off into the horizon, and I left to go to work.
When the Sarajevo left Hana Bay about 10 a.m., the sky was partly cloudy, and Malakini had a CB radio on board if he needed to contact anyone. After clearing the rock island at the mouth of the bay, he steered south toward a spot where he had enjoyed good fishing luck in the past.
The stories that I heard that were from firsthand, that John Hanchett had passed them on the way back into the bay because he noticed that the Kona winds were blowing really hard, and so he knew his storm was turning around, and so he saw the boat and waved to it, and then I heard that there was a gentleman, a tourist at Hamoa Beach that actually remembers seeing a little boat on the horizon heading towards Hana Bay and then stopping and drifting back and then starting up one more time, and then he said that the leaves were blowing onto the beach really strong, and so he left, and that's why they think that the main engine didn't work, and they tried the little kicker starter, and that obviously didn't do anything against the storm, and so they were swept out to sea.
So I turned around, I come back just before Lau on my way back to Hana Bay, and I seen the Sarah Joe going down with all our boys on it. So I waved at them. I told them that I was going back in because, it was kind of far apart. I just told them I'm going back in. But they kept on going, and everybody waved at me. On my way in, the wave was getting worse, and, the wind was getting strong and everything. And for the first time in my life, I've ever seen Hana Bay closed down. Waves right across. First time in my life I've seen that.
Less than 2 hours later, the wind shifted to the north and picked up speed rapidly. By early afternoon, a storm had erupted over the Alenuiha'a Channel. Gale force winds generated massive waves, and the sky opened up, dumping a deluge on the area. It was worse than a storm a month earlier that had sunk the Holoholo, an 80-foot research ship, with a loss of 2 crewmen.
When I left Bali's house that morning, I was living at Bali with Bali that time. The ocean was glassy, but from Waikoloa straight out, you could see there was a wind line, and the wind was blowing like about 40 miles an hour straight out to sea. But anything south of that was glassy. I went to work, we hung the drywall, and when we got back in, the wind had switched around and it was blowing down the channel. I went to the service station to put gas. I was going to buy beer, and the guys told me that if I heard that the Sarah Joe was missing, I go, no, I didn't.
Man, it came about lunchtime. That ocean was nasty. Nasty.
The father of one of the men, John Hatchett, got in a small boat and searched for his son, also asking other watermen to pitch in. Naughton went out, but like everyone else, he couldn't find a trace.
Once the family found out that the boat didn't come in, so the whole town, we got together, so Creek, in Hana, and we got the fishermen together. So Jack Ackerman had Hana Liki, the boat that time, and Jimmy Free was the captain. So we went to see him, we got together, and they was out there in the ocean that night. But it was so rough, he couldn't even find them. So the following day, we got on the plane, then we went almost every day. For at least about 12, 20 days, it's out there almost every day on the plane. And it's during the low tide, the current was going down. On the high tide, the current was coming back up. But the most saddest part is somebody had the tools, and they don't listen. That was the sad part for us, for me. The day was moving into the evening, so we didn't have much time to do anything that day, but the search started the next day. We were able to get an airplane, and I got to fly with them a couple days out both ways, up and down the channel, and we never did see any. It was rough. Hard to, if there was something down there, the odds of seeing it were nil.
They called the Coast Guard, everything, and then nothing happened. And then the next day we took off 2 boats. We was on one 25 feet ratting, 3 of us guys, and had one 36 feet ratting, had 7 guys on top, and we headed for the big island. No, the ocean is the roughest I ever been in. It was the roughest. It's like probably 40 feet waves, 40, 50 miles an hour winds. I mean, this was ugly. I mean, that's what the beginning was.
I came back in when I went up on the higher grounds, and I looked back, and then you could hardly see any blue water. It was all white water like a sheet. That's all it was. I mean, like a sheet, and I haven't seen that before. So I had to work that night, but late that night my brother and I, we went to Kaupo, look for any kind of lights, or, listening for voices, like that, Kaupo, and then we stayed out there till the morning, and we walked along the coast.
By midday, they were already on the phone, and back then they had CB radios, so they were using the CB radios, and they were calling back and forth saying, you know what, the storm's hitting, and we don't know where these boys are, and we got to start getting boats in the water and start getting people out to look for them.
And the next day they came back through the channel. My dad was on one of them, and they had another boat. 2 boats were out there. I mean, they said they were hanging on for dear life themselves. It was that rough. The troughs were huge. The boat go upside down up the sides of those troughs, and he said it was just, but my dad was, determined to do whatever he could do, which wasn't much.
We got up, crack of dawn, and we're just having coffee in the galley, and suddenly we hear this pounding on the boat, and we go outside, look down, and here's John Hanchett and a couple guys in a small boat, not much bigger than the Boston Whaler the guys were in, and they had been out all night in that full gale looking for their sons. And they asked us, "Hey, can you guys give us a hand? We're looking for my missing son and his 4 friends." And of course, here we sit in a 65-foot boat, and we said, "Yeah, I talked it over with the skipper and said, yeah, let's go for it." So we headed out, both of us, towards Polo Point, sort of in the lee a little bit, and then we headed towards Kaupo Gap, straight across Alinuiha, and John Hanchett pounded back out again, searching. But it was just unbelievably rough, and we were taking green water over the bow of our vessel. It was hard. If they had been out there, we would have had a heck of a time seeing them because of the conditions. We worked our way all the way to Maui during the day, searching, communicating with the Coast Guard overhead in their flights, and then the next day we just worked our way down towards Kaho'olawe. Of course, never found them.
I spent a lot of time up in the air, in helicopters and planes, but I mean, the ocean was so rough, nothing but white caps, and we're looking for this little white boat floating around there. It was hard. But nobody gave up.
The search for the Sarah Joe was one of the largest sea searches in the history of Hawaii, and also one of the most controversial.
I kept telling the Coast Guard guys to go about 400 miles south of the Big Island and work your way back, just like when you're going to catch fish. You never throw the net right in front of the fish, you go way in the back, and then you bring the nets in, and then you're going to guarantee get the fish. And they wouldn't listen to me. The third day, I called them up and says, "Look, you guys got to do this. Now you guys got to go maybe about 200, 300, 400 miles south of the Big Island and work your way back." And the Coast Guard told me that I don't know what I was talking about, that according to their computer, the wind drift and the currents, they're supposed to be on the north shore of Maui outside of the Hana airport. I says, "There's no way. You guys got to consult the fishermen. They know how the ocean over here goes."
The Coast Guard searched for 5 days. 44 planes covered 56,000 miles and logged nearly 330 hours flying time. No trace of the Sarah Joe or its occupants were found, and the Coast Guard called off the official search over the angry objections of relatives and friends of the missing men.
I remember coming down here every night. I mean, it wasn't for 1 week or 2 weeks or 3. It was months of people every night here, and people would have food prepared and bring big pots of food, and they would sit here, and this was central, the headquarters central, where the Coast Guard was here, private boats, private planes. They were all coming here, and they were coordinating the efforts of how we're going to go out and find these boys.
We spent many nights down at Hana Bay right here, looking for anything that might wash up the shore or anything. But we didn't find anything. Then we went on the planes. We searched. We went down as far as Marshall Island on the plane.
Hatchett admitted the Sarah Joe may have been ill-equipped to deal with such a massive storm. But these were young, strong, healthy guys. They were experienced fishermen, watermen, and good swimmers. They were capable and had each other to rely on.
All of them on top there, they was like canoe paddlers, they dive, they was in top shape. They could swim, I think, from one island to the next island. No, it wasn't no problem.
A private search continued for another week. The few friends who owned boats used them to keep looking. The families, other friends, and even some strangers donated a total of $50,000 to hire commercial boats and private planes to join the extended search.
So we used to meet right here at Hana Bay at the pavilion, the families, and then day after day, more people came to help in the search. And we coordinated the search from the pavilion. Every evening, we planned what we were going to do the next day. And so we did that. And it's amazing how many people came out to help, and amazing how many people sent checks and resources to help. And yeah, it's amazing in Hana that people come together with such a willingness and a lot of aloha.
9 years later, Naughton was at Taongi Atoll in the Marshall Islands, where a small white boat was spotted wrecked on the shore. The Marshallese captain of the boat that he was on was not too impressed. There are plenty of wrecked boats in the Pacific. But when Naughton saw the registration number from Hawaii on the bow, he had a feeling. When they were finally able to go to shore, Naughton confirmed it was indeed the Sarah Joe, 2,000 miles from Hana, and even more surprisingly, there was a grave.
September 1988, I was involved in an international research project in the northern Marshall Islands for the Republic of the Marshall Islands. We were surveying 6 uninhabited atolls in the northern Marshalls, and we look up ahead on the windward side of Sabella Island and at Taongi Atoll, and here's a Boston whaler sitting there on the beach. I go, my gosh. And I saw an HA on the bow, and I just went, wow, I wonder if that's the Boston whaler we were looking for that they never found with the missing guys from Hana. So we went over and started looking around, and I saw the HA and a couple of numbers, but a lot of it was obliterated, and there was a big S on the side, but that's all that was remained of the name. And suddenly one of the Marshallese fisheries guys was back in the scrub jungle there, says, hey, come over here, I found something. So we walked over into the jungle and on the lagoon side, and there's a cairn of rocks, kind of a pile of rocks with a crude wooden cross on it. There were some very curious squares of paper in the cairn of rocks, paper with sort of tinfoil looking centers and a little bit of Chinese writing. It turns out they're Chinese burial papers, and the idea is what they do is they roll them up and light them and then throw them on the funeral pyre of a cremation for money in the afterlife. And we started looking down. Well, that's strange, and uncovered the jawbone, a human jawbone, and I could see there were fillings in it, and it was fairly recent. There was some blonde hair.
We knew there was a grave there, and we knew there was the hull of the boat there. They brought the hull back, they dug up the grave, and they found partial remains. They never found all of the remains. There was also, in the gunnels of the boat, John had taken out some hairy substance stuff and had put it over there on the beach, and the Coast Guard never brought it back. So our idea was to find out what that was and to eventually get Taongi with the idea of doing a memorial there.
We got up there and we went up like 1,000 miles from where Majuro is the city, and we had to go 1,000 miles up to get to this island Taongi where the boat was. And we got up there. We made a plaque. We built a pedestal, and we put a plaque on that they have away on the second rock. Yeah, we put on plaque on there. Man, that was that really I mean, that time it really make me feel real. I mean, it was just unreal. I had a hard time.
And there was all kinds of rumors floating around. People, were saying maybe they were in some deserted atoll, like a Gilligan and a Gilligan's Island. Could it be possible to survive? And quite frankly, some of those atolls you could survive in. Had coconuts and coconut crabs and plenty of fish, so you could survive.
My theory is that poachers from either Taiwan or China found the body. Saw that there was some blonde hair there, figured it was a Christian. They gave him a Christian burial, and they didn't have matches, so they put some of those papers in. So it was a pretty kind act. And they were there illegally, probably getting turtles and giant clams. There's a species of giant tridacna clam. And they, of course, wouldn't report it because they were there illegal.
And we began to find that there were reports that people had seen that grave up there, so we wanted to know when. Finally, I talked to one of the crew members aboard the ship we were on, and the crew member said that he had seen that grave about 5 or 6 years before we got to that island. And so then it was a series of discussions with him, and what had happened was that he was a crew member of this government boat, which was essentially a gunboat. And that boat would search the Caroline Islands, which is where Margereau is located in the capital, and would search it and try to find crews of fishermen that were illegally fishing in the Marshallese waters. Well, by gosh, they came up to Taongi Atoll, and there was a Taiwanese fishing ship that was anchored right there in the waters of the lagoon. They went on the island, and that's when the Marshallese guy saw the grave, and he saw the hull. But he never said anything about it. Nobody did anything about it.
I think when I went down there, that's when I had one closure to this thing. It's too far, to survive on like that. So that trip gave me closure.
Many of the families reflect often about the Sarah Joe. Some of the families don't want it opened up again. Others do want it remembered. One thing is certain. These 5 men from Hana will never be forgotten. Hana remembers her sons.
Last year, Uncle Robert Malakini asked me if I would help him to commemorate and honor the 5 men lost at sea. And so I went to his house last year, and he shared with me the Sarah Joe, and he shared with me the pictures.
We all grew up learning about the story of the Sarah Joe, and then it's just so beautiful that, meeting Malakini family with you and all that, and bringing it together through the festivals and everything, and getting that chance to come out to Hana. I thought it was such a great honor and such a beautiful circle to be a part of. So I accepted Robert's invitation to take the words and the story of the Sarah Joe and put it to music. And, through you learning about the Sarah Joe, and through Pat and Robert telling me, the stories about the 5 lost men, and the struggles, the emotions, and the love put into the families, instilled into the families, instilled into the generations. Like this is what your daddy was, or, my boy was, and one of the things that was really beautiful was when we were down by the Sarah Joe, and we said to each other, if the Sarah Joe could only talk. Yeah, so I think that it talks through the music again.
Pai ka vai o na ho Olu olu no kanalo o ke anini Maho o nini ha oe Ike kai uli Au he ha oe Ku'umanu kai Ia poha ina no sarakeo Puana anana pula pula o ka aina I ke aloha o manunona o hana A kahi no kau Ke kalilei I ke one vale vale o Olo olo no kanalo o ke anini Aho o nini a oe Ke kai uli Ahe a oe Ku'umanu kai Eia ho'uhaina No sarakeo Eia ho'uhaina no sarakeo Eia ho'uhaina